companies behave with their best interest in mind, if you're also behaving with the company's best interest in mind, no one is behaving with your best interest in mind. Jobs are getting like 200 applications at the moment, straight away. It's the market right now. Like, it's very, very tough. Don't change much if you have a really good CV. I would say focus on...
Brand new series, Millennial Money, Jobs with Shay. So, you know what we're here to do today?
Talk to me about careers, jobs, job search. I have a law degree, but honestly, in like third year, I was like, I don't want to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then I used to work in Vodafone in the phone shop. And then someone came in and she had this grad job and she was like, oh yeah, I get to travel. Like, it's in finance, but like finance is only a small part of it. I basically realized from there, actually, sales is what I want to do. And I just made my way. Been doing that for like 7-8 years now. The first thing I would say is that it's a tough market. That person is doing the right thing. If you're getting rejected, sometimes you tend to think, am I going about this wrong? Honestly, it's the market right now. Like, it's very, very tough. Jobs are getting like 200 applications at the moment, straight away. So don't change much if you have a really good CV. I would say focus on speed. Recruiters only need 10 to 15 candidates to speak to. They probably found that person in the first 24 hours. Speaking to a recruiter, trying to get a referral, or speaking to someone that is in the decision-making process is what I would say.
What is a focused application?
I'm assuming what they mean is, rather than like sending out a generic CV and just crossing their fingers, they've had a look at the actual responsibilities, like what is being asked of me in this role, and then match their CV with that, basically. The main thing that people do when they want to change industries, let's say they work like 8 years in one industry, public sector, they're using all of the language from that sector and they don't know how to speak the language of the private sector, basically. Definitely speak to people from within the sector.
How would you advise people reach out to?
LinkedIn, absolutely. Whether you have like the premium profile or like the normal profile, you can actually just send messages to people. As long as you add a note, most people are willing to connect. Public sector to private, get a list of your target companies in the private sector, list them out, search for people in the roles that you want to get into, speak to those people. Try and find people that have made the shift already. On LinkedIn, the way to do that is get a list of public sector, whether it's schools or whatever that might be, and then your private sector companies. You can literally search people that have made that transition and reach out to them. It's often treated as the elephant in the room, like when you're transitioning, like people try to ignore it as if the CV isn't in front of the person. It's like, oh yeah, I'm trying to hide the fact that I'm changing my whole career. Address it. Like, literally practice saying like, my experience so far in the public sector is the reason why I want to go into the private sector. Like, really wear it and acknowledge it. Because it's like, we all know when someone's trying to keep a secret. I can see your CV in front of me. It just shows confidence. Also allows you to prepare your story and really convince yourself that actually, yes, I have 10 years experience in public, but these are the reasons why I'm going to be good in the private sector. And I think that applies like changing careers generally.
What industry do you work in?
I work in tech.
How would you advise someone, let's say, from an accounting background into tech?
You can look at it role specific or like industry specific. All they need to do is pivot industries. They're not changing what they're doing. If they're basically going into a tech company, they just need to show that they can work in a tech company, show how they're using tech within their current role, but actually just focus that application on an accountant role within the tech industry or like a finance role within the tech industry. It's more about like positioning what you've previously done and like showing why it would be valuable, kind of similar to public to private. None of this stuff is easy, but what I would say is very simple. If you follow the simple steps, it's doable is what I would say. If you're looking to transition the role that you're in, the easiest way to do it is within the company that you're in. Transition on the basis of your previous expertise and then like try to make the moves afterwards. That might look like going from an accountant to an accountant within like a big tech company to then transitioning into my sort of role within that same tech company. These tech roles and like these high paying careers, they're going to be transformed by tech and AI generally. I wouldn't say we need to be avoiding them. I was actually listening to a podcast the other day about this and it said, you're not going to be replaced by AI. You might be competing with someone that uses AI better than you. That's where the focus should be. We've seen in retail shops, for example, maybe like cashiers, you can self-serve with things like that. Simple data entry. At the more senior level, you're probably competing with someone that can use AI better than you in your day-to-day job that can be a bit more efficient. There's another like interesting question around that, which is what new jobs might be available? Prompt engineering, like engineering generally, machine learning, even like ethics, the legal side of AI, things like that. Cybersecurity is another good one. Those roles are going to be popping up more.
30 to 40% of the jobs that are going to be the most popular jobs in the next 10 years haven't even been invented yet.
Yeah, even like social media managers and things like that. They weren't jobs like when we were in uni. something that can maybe be applied to everyone. When you think about high salaries, what you need to have is an industry that is growing, and you need to have a niche set of skills, and that can apply to anything. That can actually apply to like public sector and education. If you're uniquely qualified with like a layer of 2 to 3 skills, and you're one of very few people that can do that in an industry where there's unlimited demand, that's where you need to focus and make your money. You need to make sure that you have something to hold on to that's basically changed from the beginning of the process to now the end of the process. You can't just be like, oh, actually, I've changed my mind and I want more money. What I'd advise is something you found out during the interview process. Are you responsible for more budget than you initially thought you were responsible for? Do you have more projects that you're going to be getting involved in? Whatever that reason is, you need to basically bring that to the forefront and just say, thank you so much. Really appreciate this process. I really want to join and work at this organization. However, I'd love to revisit the salary conversation. I realized by going through this process that I'm looking after many more projects than I realized. I did a bit of digging, and actually I checked the market rate for like looking after these types of projects. The market rate salary is XYZ salary. Can we get a bit closer to that number? Basically write that down, do that script. Who we find. I would say with teaching, there are so many transferable skills. I know that's like a buzzword, but literally transferable skills are skills that you have in your day-to-day job that you might think by the nature of the job, surely everyone's good at this, but actually not really. Teachers are very organized, they manage internal projects, they have stakeholders. It's all about like changing the way you view those things. It's on you to kind of draw out those experiences and make them applicable to other industries. I would look at roles, maybe even in tech, that might be like training, leadership development, anything like that, coaching sort of thing, just for like a smooth transition, and then go from there. My friend who also has a law degree, but actually now he's like a presenter on TV. I feel like that's like...
It's a complete shift.
Yeah, literally. Another one I'm thinking of is my friend is, I think his role is like head of something in finance, but then he also has a podcast. It's not even career shift, it's more like double life, like, yeah. Anything that is disguised as a positive, transparency is key. So actually think of a genuine weakness, unless it will make you seem like a bad candidate for a role. I think the most important thing is to address how you've worked on them or overcome them. Because if someone's saying that they're like a perfectionist and they're always like, people see through it immediately. Networking can be very intimidating if you're like, oh, I'm actually just here on my own, I don't really know what to do. Have a strategy, have a plan. Once you do your plan, leave and go home. So that might look like, okay, I need to speak to these people, I need to plan it beforehand, I need to know what I'm gonna say, just so that you feel like you're not just out there in the world, but you actually like have a plan ahead of you, if that makes sense. Not having a plan for their career is a very big one. They're good at what they do, they find a role, but then they just let themselves just like flow like a river and just see where they end up. And I always say, if you don't make a plan for your career, you're just gonna end up anywhere, basically. You need to have an end goal and then like take steps towards that, and then not going as far as you could have, or like wasting time doing specific things, taking jobs that are beneath you. Life will basically forge a career path for you if you don't make it for yourself. Other thing I would say, a big mistake is that people don't shout about their achievements enough. And it's a very British thing, I would say. Like, you complete a big project and you think, oh, maybe I'll post on LinkedIn, maybe like at another time, or maybe people will just notice that I'm doing the work. Everyone's so focused on themselves. No one cares, but no one notices. So you really need to shout like, okay, I'm good at what I do. These are the results. I put this together myself, and say, I did this, I own this, I was responsible for this. I see this a lot in like younger people. They just think, oh, but like there are people older than me that have more experience than me. Like I shouldn't shout about what I've done. Like, oh, it's just this small thing. The older you get, there are always going to be more experienced people, so shout about it when it happens and shout loudly. I'm a job hopping fan, actually. I'm a fan of job hopping with direction. Have a plan for like where you're heading in your career. And if, for example, you need to make 2 or 3 moves in order to get there, that's absolutely fine. 2 to 3 years, you're earning and you're learning, and make a move. Genuinely, like that is the way. If you want to build like a high paying career, that's the way you can do it. If you do it with a plan, I think it's fine. You have to put yourself first. And I think if you're taking a backseat in a role and like you spend 6 months to a year there, ultimately that's 6 months to a year where you could have been like upskilling. We've all seen those people of like, you might be working in the same role as someone, you've both been there a year, but actually this person is really excelling and you're just doing the bare minimum. Ultimately, that is gonna have an impact on your career long term. If you're not in the right role for yourself, quit loudly. Just make the move and like actually get into something that you're giving to and it's giving back to yourself as well. is this important to me right now? And there's always those balances that need to be had. So like sometimes it's salary, sometimes it's remote work, sometimes it's work-life balance. If travel is the thing that's important for you right now, you can absolutely build a career and travel, but it will come at the sacrifice of other things. But ultimately, yeah, it's absolutely possible. I think if someone's thinking about travel, what I would tell them to focus on is probably building a bit of personal brand, just so that they're not stuck to like one location, they're not stuck to one specific industry or company. Become a thought leader, approach it that way rather than the traditional. The advice I give to young people now is don't give your life to a company. I spoke to someone that was very, very senior, spent 17 or 18 years in an organization and was laid off. Companies behave with their best interest in mind. If you're also behaving with the company's best interest in mind, no one is behaving with your best interest in mind. You need to do that for yourself. Traditional mentoring, maybe. So I am a big fan of mentoring. However, I think you don't need like one mentor. You need multiple mentors for specific areas of your life. I think it's a big commitment for someone to commit to that position. I actually think of it like an advice triangle. You go to them, you ask them for advice, you take their advice, and then you go back to them and say, oh, actually, these are the results of the advice that you gave, rather than being like, can you be my mentor? Pick a few different people that have specific skill sets that you want to learn from in different areas of your life. Go about mentoring that way. Do you know what? I wouldn't change any of the places I've worked or like some of the things I've done, because I'm really happy in my career now. The different places I've been have taught me different things, but I would take my own advice about shouting about my achievements. There are so many things I've done that I'm like, why didn't I talk about that at the time? What was I waiting for? What permission was I waiting for in order to like shout about things that I've done? Again, I say it's like a very British thing to be like, oh, I did this, but no, you don't need to do that. So yeah, I just shout about my achievements. Also shout about the fact that I own a business and like really highlight what that has brought to my 9-to-5 career as well, because it's something that I tend to underplay.
Wicked.
Yeah.
First video, and looks like that's a wrap.
Oh, that was so fun. No, that was fun, man.